Hi, welcome back to the Healing Medicine Show. This is the show we produce on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central as part of the Healing Medicine newsletter. The vision for this show is to provide a platform for health and healing professionals to grow in their understanding and their practice of what it means to be a healer. So we provide healthcare professionals with resources, with information, with inspiration about personal and professional development practices, especially those that are rooted in holistic health. We believe that change in healthcare starts by focusing on the health and the healing of healthcare providers. If you have a colleague who would enjoy this show, please send them the link to subscribe to this newsletter. Oh, and I forgot to ask you how today I am so excited to welcome pharmacist Dr. Marina Buksov. Did I say your name right? Okay. Today, I'm so excited to welcome pharmacist, herbalist, mentor, Dr. Marina Buksov to the Healing Medicine Show. Marina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure.
So I'm very excited to dig into your story, and I've always been excited about herbalism and medicinal plants and naturopathic, alternative and complementary medicines. But I want to start off this interview the same way we start off all our all of our healing medicine interviews, which is by asking you the question, what does healing mean to you?
That is such an awesome question. I think what comes to mind is fullness and richness, like your experience of life to just be absolutely full of different gamuts of experience. Ideally, a lot more positive ones that leave you just feeling elated and joyful and feeling like you are, at the highest potential, that everything is ahead of you, and feeling like you can accomplish anything and your body is able to accomplish all the things that you want, I think is my definition. And just to expand on that, from the classic World Health Organization, mind, body, spirit health. I think those are important, but I would also add connection, and that could be relationships with your community, your partner, your family, and relationship to nature, I think is really, really important too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've studied kind of the science of human potential, and it's interesting how this mind, body, spirit aspect works and plays into your overall health and well-being. I think we're seeing it. We had a conversation last week with Helen Sairani about trauma-informed care and how post-traumatic stress disorder has an impact on people's day-to-day lives, but can actually be addressed in a way that is healing and helps them shift into a more calm, nervous, and energetic state. So just one of the many things that we as healthcare professionals can do to encourage our patients to hold that vision for what is that highest potential. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your own healing journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that also just came to me is that ability to self-regulate and self-govern. That is the human potential, the body potential. This is the wisdom of our body to heal and to have all of these biofeedback mechanisms in place. So really, we're designed for this. And, our modern lifestyle, unfortunately, allows for a lot of dysregulation to happen. So I think it's health and healing is just our ability to go back to that natural self-healing state and re-regulate ourselves, and getting all the tools that we can have in our toolbox for that is something that I'm passionate about. And that does tie into my personal and professional journey, because when I graduated pharmacy school, I actually sort of had a healing and health crisis. And I think the two were related. So, my body was experiencing weird symptoms and flare-ups, and my mind and my mental health was one of lacking joy and lacking satisfaction and not being 100% aligned with the pharmacy work, because I realized that, even though drugs are great, and we equate drugs with medicine, but other things can be medicinal too, and they're not as toxic and they don't have as many adverse effects. They don't have a toll on your liver and your kidneys. And so when I was handing out and dispensing in my retail setting, over 20 meds per person, I just knew that that wasn't the way that we should be self-regulating. And I wished there were a better way. And I wish that I was involved in the better way and in the prevention and the public health and fueling our body with the resources that it needs to self-regulate versus, using science, which again is fascinating. But science just doesn't seem to catch up fast enough, right? To the way that we can dysregulate. So in my own health challenges, I realized that the drug wasn't the answer. And in fact, I felt that I had actually some traumatic medical experiences because, I had digestive issues and I had these weird burping, recurring burping up to the point where it became so bothersome and embarrassing that I went to my doctor, then I went to a gastroenterologist. They gave me an endoscopy. They gave me, the whole H. pylori gamete therapy and PPI for 6 months, but that it just became indefinite. And it wasn't getting me better. Like I still had the same symptoms and their theory didn't seem to pan out. But here I was like taking all the medicine, suppressing my acid, not digesting my food, not absorbing my vitamins and all the downstream effects of these medications that at the time I learned in school, oh, this is harmless, right? But now we're linking it to osteoporosis and all of these other things. So I was at the time employed at a pharmacy that actually has a more natural approach. So my pharmacist actually told me, hey, why don't you try a more alkaline diet? So I started researching that and I weaned myself off the PPIs. I took a probiotic based on her recommendation as well. And then I just really started learning about, the naturopathic side of things. And then I started seeing different types of practitioners. I tried acupuncture. I took some Chinese herbs and formulas. And, after just 1 week of the Chinese tea, my burps disappeared forever.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, it really was a miracle because modern medicine, unfortunately, didn't have the solution that this ancient tradition medicine had for me. And the diagnosis I had from there was a rebellious stomach chi, right? So it was really fascinating. And, that just was my first kind of entry point into all of these modalities. And, since then I tried Reiki, I tried craniosacral therapy, chiropractor, if that counts. Some people count it, I don't know. And then if you've ever heard of the Paula method, working with sphincters of the body. So lots of like mind body energy work, as well as acupuncture and herbs really became my foundation. And so then I explored becoming a health coach myself and studying functional nutrition to, first of all, understand my own body better, and then also try to incorporate it with my pharmacy knowledge and maybe kind of shift my profession towards there. And then the other thing that I had was I started also around the same time of finishing pharmacy school. I had acne, I had PCOS diagnosed. The only answer was birth control, which I refused. And, like a lot of invasive or detrimental, like antibiotic sort of topicals or internals.
Jane.
Yeah, right. So I didn't want to go there. And, I just realized that this is something that even if the drugs would help, they would only help for as long as I would take them. And then the issue would come back up. Like you can't really suppress it until you go through it, which is the way I see healing now. So it's like, how do we go through the challenge and resolve it and come to resolution versus just suppressing it? And so one of these things that also happened, which was weird, is my eyes started tearing. And so I started just constantly tearing and nobody could diagnose me for a while. Like they would put me on all these anti-allergy pills and eye drops. Nothing was helping. And finally they said, okay, you have narrow tear ducts. So you have dacryostenosis. And this is really strange for adults to have. This is like mostly something that happens to babies. And so basically I was put on a lot of topical steroids, and nothing was getting better. And one eye actually resolved after some irrigation and steroid therapy, and the other side has not resolved. And so after so much, steroid therapy and flare-ups, I finally agreed to do a stent placement, which is a temporary silicone stent that required anesthesia to be put in. So I agreed to that. And then 3 months later, when it was time to take it out, I had the hugest flare-up. And when it was taken out, my tear duct closed right back up. So it was just one of those things where the more aggressive I treated something, the less my body responded positively. And then we tried to irrigate it forcefully, and it got a huge black eye. And it was just a whole big mess. And so I just decided, you know what, I need to be gentle. And that's when all those other modalities that I mentioned with the energetic component and gentle touch and working with the sphincters of my body were really helpful. And then at that time, I also enrolled into herbal school. So I came in with this huge, puppy eye because I weaned myself off the steroids, and I also swore that I would never take them again. And so at certain points in my life, I had allergic reactions, which is not typical for me. And I always equated it to me just being under huge stress or not being in alignment with myself. So after the fact, I could look back and I could see all of these things happened when I wasn't following my true path.
It was biofeedback that, you're not on the right track. And I love that what you said, the more aggressive that you were trying to be, the more your body was reacting. And I think that's what we really want to talk about on the Healing Medicine Show is how do we approach these issues with the whole person in mind? And, it's not that, we're really set up to, like you said, if you're stopping medications, you're not, you're just going to go back to the way it was. So really thinking about how do we focus on true healing and using some of these biofeedback modalities. I think one of the biggest use cases I see for something like mind-body medicine, where you're doing, shifting the vagal tone, and you're decreasing the nervous system response, and you're looking at toxins, and you're really kind of getting out of the body's way, so the body is allowed to heal itself. And I think that we think interventions first, and I think we should be thinking about what can we remove that could be causing some of these issues. So I love you kind of talked about this wisdom of nature, and I've never been to China before, but I've heard as you walk into a Chinese pharmacy, the first person you see is the pharmacist sitting out front, and you have a conversation with the pharmacist about what's going on, what is the ailment, and then the pharmacist is then recommending certain herbs and nutrients to treat. And I've also spoken with pharmacists in Africa, and many of the traditions there in Africa are also very focused on natural healing, herbalism, and plant medicine, indigenous, plant medicine ceremonies and things like that. So I think there is something to be said for these ancient modalities of healing medicine that have kept our species alive for hundreds of thousands of years, to not just be completely disregarded just because allopathic medicine and pharmaceutical medicine have been on the planet for 50 years, 100 years, maybe?
Yeah.
And so it's really about asking that question of, wouldn't it be nice if we could somehow combine this Eastern approach of more spiritual, energetic, emotional medicine with our Western approach, which, because of technology, we have a lot of opportunities to fix physically things in the body, but we know the body's not a machine. So really focusing on how can we allow the body to do its work and heal itself, which is what it was created to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exactly what my body, I think, was trying to do, is re-regulate or alert or alarm me to some things. And there are also, different philosophies about how all disease starts on this emotional, vibrational level. Mm-hmm. And then by the time it already manifests in your physical form, there's a lot of layers to peel back, and there's a lot of healing to be done. And there is no one path to healing. There's just a multitude of, variable modalities you can turn to, or things that you can use to assist, or things that you can eliminate, like you said, to get out of the body's way. But I think one thing that assists the healing process is detaching the judgment and the expectation and the meaning from the process. So it's not that my body is bad because it got sick, and couldn't be resilient. And, this is getting in the way of my schedule, and I wish this weren't happening to me. And it's also not bad that I have to take a medication, right? Because my body does need this crutch right now. And it's also not bad that I want to support my body with nutrients in their whole form. And even though there's no scientific literature, I understand that we need to nourish ourselves with whole food, whole herb, whole plant-based nutrients. And I believe I've seen enough science to help me understand this basic fact, as well as, what is toxic for me versus what is nourishing for me. So sometimes it's not convenient, right? The way that the body is responding to healing, but it's never, that it's bad or wrong. And I think that's one thing that really allowed me, like the accepting and the surrendering that there's a process, and I'm going to just do my best to see where this process goes and allow my body to do what it needs to do, was really, I think, helpful.
It truly is a process, and requires a lot of emotional work, a lot of personal honesty, a lot of getting clear about some of the things that are holding us back. And I think, many healthcare professionals are in that place right now where they may be struggling mentally, they may be struggling with burnout and stress and not feeling aligned with their practice. So, what advice would you give to them to support them? And what advice would you maybe give them to begin their own healing journeys?
Yeah, I would say to create a pause and a space for you to assess, where you are. Just kind of give yourself a rating or a score, if you will, if you respond to numbers and quantifying, because sometimes, the quality is a little bit more esoteric and not as clear, but just really allowing yourself that pause to just even be aware, become aware of where you are in those areas of health, maybe that we mentioned, mind, body, spirit, connection, or if you want to just do the whole wheel of life and add finances, career, motivation, purpose. So just understand that where you are. And then once you get those scores and an idea of where you're doing well and maybe where you want to improve, then what can you get rid of? Like you said, what can you just get rid of that is not serving you? Maybe scrolling through social media, or, maybe you want to inspect your house for mold or something like that, or just reorganize your house because it's a mess and it's not letting you think clearly. And then what can you add in that will be nourishing? Like going outside for a walk, just looking at the sun and just being grateful that you're alive today.
I love that. Taking the time for yourself and for the things that light you up. I think, we give so much to our jobs and our families, and a lot of times put ourselves on the back burner, and it can feel really selfish. Like it can feel, kind of like you have that mom guilt of like, oh, I'm taking this time, setting this time aside, to work on myself, or to attend a healing medicine retreat or a wellness retreat or something like that, when in reality it's so important, because if you aren't putting yourself first, if you aren't prioritizing your own health, then
who will do that for you. So I think that message is really powerful, and thinking about how disease starts on an emotional level. What are the resentments that you may be holding and pushing down? What is the self-forgiveness and self-compassion that needs to happen before you can, move forward to address food addiction or an alcohol addiction, or, whatever that looks like, getting really honest with ourselves and what does that healing path look like for us. So, Marina, I want to thank you so much. Where can people find out more about you and your work and follow along with your journey?
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. And I'll also add that in order for you to even express love to others, you have to understand what it feels like to love yourself. So you need to know and show yourself the love that you can then share and pour out to others. So where can you reach me? You can reach me at drmarinabuksov.com. That's my website. You can follow me on Instagram, same name, TikTok, wherever. I'm like everywhere.
I love that. Well, we'll put your links also in the show notes of this video. And again, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you guys for watching another episode of the Healing Medicine Show. If you have comments and want to connect with Marina or myself, I encourage you to do so and to begin focusing on your own health and healing as a healthcare professional. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope to see you